Welcome to Mentor. I'm Rachel Ford.
And I'm Marco Bertozzi.
And we are the founders of TheZoo.London Consultant Collective and Executive Search.
And our podcast is all about sharing hard-earned wisdom from people who have been there and done it.
Insights you will not find in a business book, but you can use in real life. And today is no exception. We have a wonderful person.
Richard Eyre, CBE.
CBE.
We like to have letters after our
So many accolades to his career, and you'll hear all about it. But what really sits with you is that how humble he is. He's like, honestly, when you some of the biggest fuck-ups, the decisions, the boardrooms he's been in, and yet he remains incredibly humble.
Jobs that I think you know there were a number of very difficult conversations and tough decisions, and yet sort of he seems to have handled everything with elegance, doesn't he?
Absolutely. And then obviously also publicly, led quite public figures. You can hear why Channel 4 turned him down 3 times. I think that was the one that got away. But anyway, he went on to bigger and better things. But no, a really amazing conversation with just an incredible human being and soul. So first we'll have a moment from our sponsors and then we'll get Richard in. Come on, Richard. Hey, Marco, when you think of a great mentor, what words come to your mind?
I think smart, definitely supportive, obviously wise and experienced for sure.
Yeah, I think the same really. And, someone knowledgeable who pushes your ideas beyond your first ideas.
That's why we chose Viral Tribe, because they've helped us on our podcasting journey.
Yeah, you could say they've been our podcasting mentors, couldn't you?
They
have been our ultimate support system, helping us with creative ideas, production. And with state-of-the-art studios like we're in today in the heart of Soho, London, they're not just brilliant at what they do, but they make the whole process seamless and stress-free.
And they work with some of the biggest creators, producers and brands, making everything from chart-topping shows to branded entertainment.
So if you're thinking about launching a video, an audio, a live podcast, make Viral Tribe your podcasting mentor.
Drop them a line at hello@viraltribe.co.uk, and if you quote mentor, they'll give you 20% off your first 3 bookings.
So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Today on Mentor, welcome Richard Eyre CBE. We're very excited to have you with us. Thank you for making the time. And as always, we're going to read out your bio. Please tell us if anything is incorrect.
If ChatGPT got it wrong, sorry.
ChatGPT has led us astray and made you chairman of John Lewis or something.
It has happened.
This has happened. So, yes, today on Mentor, we're joined by Richard Eyre CBE, one of the most experienced figures in British media advertising and broadcasting, with a career spanning more than 4 decades across agencies, radio, television and digital and the wider creative industries. Richard began his career in advertising, becoming managing director at BBH before moving into broadcasting, where he went on to lead Capital Radio and later became chief executive of the ITV network during a period of major change for commercial television. He later ran Pearson Television, held senior roles at RTL, helping shape the European landscape. And in more recent years, Richard has built what he describes as a plural career, working as a chairman, non-exec director and advisor across media, technology and creative businesses. He has been chairman of the Internet Advertising Bureau UK since the early 2000s, has served on the boards of the Guardian Media Group, Eden Project and Next 15, and most recently has been working with creative collective house 337 and other organisations navigating the next phase of change in the industry. Richard's career has taken him through several generations of disruption, from the golden age of advertising to multi-channel television, the internet and today's platform economy, which makes him the perfect guest, even though we do say so ourselves, to talk about how careers evolve, leaders adapt and what it really takes to stay relevant over time. How was that?
Almost completely right.
Almost completely right. Well done.
We take almost, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost 99% will do.
Did we miss anything out?
No, I was media director at BBH, not managing director.
media director.
Oh, I think we'll give you
Yeah.
that. To be fair,
You probably should have been.
yeah, you should have been. You should have been. And also, it didn't have non-exec of Stockholm Mediavest board, which is where
Yeah.
I met you, Richard. And we are just so delighted to have you here today. We know you're incredibly busy, but you're a sage old soul, can I say? And I know that your wisdom today is going to be fantastic. So thank you so much. We do like to start it off. I love how you've got a pencil. This is also like...
No, you've got some proper homework there that's been done. I can see.
Well, yeah,
good-
I'm just saying, I've got to say, preparation.
Yeah.
And we are, as I say, we're really thrilled to have you here today. But to start us off, and to any listeners or viewers that may not have come across you before, do you want to kind of give a little bit of a reprise of your career in 60 seconds or less or more, but just from your own words, maybe
Okay.
how you got here?
You pretty much got it, but so the start was a bit dodge.
we always like
because-
the start. I think.
Yeah, so I went on a marketing course at Procter & Gamble. Left university, had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was horrified by the fact that these really bright people who, like me, had been through the same kind of university as me, 3 to 4 years on, they were working on Head and Shoulders. And I thought, this is not my idea of success. So I retired, 21 years old, you don't do course corrections, you do U-turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I like the idea of marketing. We did, at the course, you did marketing and sales and manufacturing and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I like the marketing bit. So I said, well, I want to do marketing or advertising, but I'm going to do it for a charity, not for dandruff shampoo. And wrote to lots of charities, and they all said, well, lovely idea, but no, we can't hire you. And in the end, I was given the best career advice ever by my dad, which was, you're always welcome to come back here, but you can't live here anymore.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
at that point, I had to get a job. And it was
Needs
Tough
must.
love.
Needs
would
must,
we be
don't
able to
they?
say that today? We're
I don't
all
think we
too
can
soft,
these
aren't
days.
we?
Yeah.
And also, no one could afford to.
No, nobody can actually afford.
Exactly.
Nobody
Not
can
gonna
afford
move
the
out
rent.
anymore, can they?
Yeah.
But good old dad, he went, "Come on, son."
Yeah. So I just followed up a bunch of ads in the newspaper, as it was then, and no zoo to call up. So
Yeah.
I finished up as a TV time buyer, which I was crap at. So bad. But those are nicer
So
days.
where was that?
Benson and Bowles.
Benson.
Yeah, but in those they were nicer times. If you're crap at something, they found something else for you to do. They
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't you went straight out.
So
yeah.
they said, I said, do you want to try media planning? Well, yes, please.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds
and
much more like
I was
you.
good at that.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been so terrible at the other thing. But, and it kind of started from there. I did 16 years in ad agencies. The bit that I kind of dropped from my bag, I did about 9 months at Scottish Television and Grampian Sales. I went there because they offered me a pay rise. And then I went back to B&B because they offered me another pay rise. It's that.
But grounding for ITV, because in a way,
Kind of. Yeah. And then,
Grampian.
and after 16 years, finishing at BBH, which was just great, probably close to being my second best job, probably.
We had Sir John Haggerty on, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
I've worked with some wonderfully talented people.
Yeah.
We'll come on to that. But yeah, that was the beginning of the career, which thereafter you've summarised pretty well.
Yeah.
And you were at Cambridge.
Oxford.
Oxford?
Okay.
Oh my Lord! No, actually, I
No,
read that ChatGPT said you
did
were at
say
Cambridge.
so
Yeah.
apologies for that.
Hallucinated.
Because I thought that was going to be a bonding moment.
No,
'cause
not a bonding moment.
Rachel
no.
was at Cambridge as
Yeah,
well.
but we don't talk about that.
She hates me mentioning it,
Let's
and I
just
like to mention it every time.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I do too.
Isn't
And I talk about when I left college because
Yeah, I do
don't-
say college.
'cause,
Yeah.
because it was a college, but it's funny, all those years you think this is the best thing I could possibly do, and now we're kind of hiding it.
We've interviewed a lot of people actually that came straight out of school and ended up, doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Was when you were working at that time, what was that balance of sort of grads versus, people who are coming out of school or work placements or?
Oh, you had to be a grad.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was-
Procter and Gamble
yeah.
it was like just the graduate scheme.
Yeah.
Agency side, was it the same?
No, the agency side was not the same, except at Benton and Bowles.
Right.
So Benton Bowles media department, run by this chap called Ray Morgan, he insisted on graduates, and in fact his his deputy was a bloke called Derek Southern, whose middle name was Hamilton, and they called us Hamilton's Academicals because of his insistence on graduates. He hired for interest,
Right.
and so he got this extraordinary group of people. I mean, I think he recognised that. I mean, you either could be a good time buyer or not, and
Yeah.
media planning's
It
not
was
that
a
hard.
particular kind of.
Mm.
But
yeah.
but actually, if you could create this culture of really people who are quite interested in each other and brought interesting, diverse things to the table, that might be a winning formula, and I think it was.
Yeah.
We're still in touch. We have reunions now, which is like 50 years on, not quite 50 years on, but
So that was Derek Southern of Zenith fame.
Yeah.
Derek Southern.
He
and
and
then Ray Morgan set up. That was
Zen-
Ray Morgan and Partners or whatever.
that's right, and then that
Yes.
became Zenith
Yeah, yeah.
with
Yeah.
Christine
That was
Walker
the-
and
yeah.
Mike DeVere and all that lot.
We would
Yeah.
love to get Christine Walker on.
We're
working
trying to
on that,
find
aren't
her.
Oh, I know.
She's
what
elusive.
I know.
We'll ask you that later.
She's got
Yeah.
some opinions.
Why?
Yes, she has.
Why weren't you any good at time buying?
That's a really good question. I just didn't get it. I mean, it just seemed to me a lot of luck, and
Or shouting? It seemed to be in our day.
I think, yeah, so I think I'm best where you can build a relationship with somebody and then work with the relationship. Time buying was intensely transactional, and I felt that my job when I first started was like you ring up and just check where all the spots are. It's incredibly
Yeah.
manual business.
Yeah, it was very manual.
And
Spot matching.
every time you did that, somebody would go, oh God, I'm going to go through this again. So there was a sort of reciprocal person on the other side who was so bored by the fact that you phoned up, and you were so bored by having to
Brings back
phone up.
memories, doesn't it?
And then when it came to actually sort of booking a schedule, my first campaign was for Fison's Combat. I mean, it's gone down in history as being one of the worst bought campaigns of all time in Benson and Bolds' history.
But they didn't. But they found you a different job, like you say.
Yeah, they
They
did,
kind
yeah.
of you went out anyway. And
Yeah.
was so then you said BB8. How long were you at BB8 for?
6 years.
6.
Yeah.
What was your longest part of your career? Because I was thinking, is the IAB? Obviously, you've sat
Yeah.
on the board. Is that like the longest tenure of any?
Oh yeah, it is.
Position
But
that
it's
you've
it's,
had.
it's non-executive.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it's not the same level of intensity.
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
I do think that executives. It's a much wiser thing for executives to move on. Non-execs. I mean, if you're an exec of a public company, you've got to move on after 9 years.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
the shareholders assume, I think quite correctly, that you've probably become firm friends with the management team. And
Yeah.
you're no longer very effective
You need to be the
governance.
objective, person in the room.
100%.
Yeah,
So I think there's something good about moving on.
yeah, I agree.
So after BBH,
Capital Radio. I mean, what a piece of luck. Everyone says it's very hard to get a job as running a public company, because it is. Because public company boards go, well, you've never run a public company before. And that's exactly what happened at Capital through the process, being interviewed by all of the non-execs, every single one of them, all of whom said,
Wow.
but you've never run a public company before. And I said, well, I haven't, but I do know why radio is getting less than 2% of total advertising share, kind of which is more important.
Yeah.
yes,
They seem to sort of buy
And
that
did
argument.
you shift that percentage?
Yeah, we did.
What did you shift it to?
We did. I think it was about 5 by the time
Wow.
I left.
So over double.
Yeah, but so when I joined in 1991,
Yeah.
I think in total commercial radio, the profits of commercial radio was £2 million in total across that
Wow.
year, of which 9 million was capital. So that's
yeah.
the shape that it was in,
Yeah.
and it was so uneven that whatever capital did was disproportionately important. So if we took a view that what was good for the radio industry was good for us, then we got a lot of support.
Yeah.
Whereas I think previously my predecessor had taken a different point of view,
Yeah.
and therefore we were universally
it
hated.
was a bit of a.
Yeah.
I feel like just because when we started out, we had I certainly had the radio team were sort of sat next to us, Jim Freeman,
Yeah.
people like that.
Mike Buckley.
And I felt like it went through a bit of a heyday, but I don't know if that's just in my
Maybe that was
mind of being
Capital.
a buyer. But
Yeah.
it seemed like
Yeah,
the Capital was taking off, and
It
there
did.
were all these new stations, and we just were with June.
I was doing
listening to June
Sarpong this
about
morning, Kiss
and,
Radio.
I just
yeah.
there probably was a moment, wasn't there, where it sort of really
Yeah,
took
I
off.
think partly it was to do with just better ideas and better leadership, but also it was to do with different regulation.
Yeah.
Because when I first went to Capital, we were allowed to have 2 radio stations. That was it.
Yeah.
So there was no. I mean, even though we had the best radio stations, because we had London Top 40,
Yeah.
which is the easiest gig of all.
Mm.
No, very challenging, but but actually the one where you could make most money from. The fact that you could own such a tiny share of the marketplace, and then they changed it so it was a point system, which was like a sort of board game that if you wouldn't play it because it's just so boring. You could have 15% of the points in the system. So that then put another lid on how far you could grow,
Right.
which we might come on to when we talk about your biggest mistakes.
Oh, right. Ooh, look forward to that.
Going forward.
So keep winding forwards.
So Capital, Capital was I did for 6 years, and I got headhunted at the last possible minute to be potentially chief executive of Channel 4. So I got this call saying I'd met this bloke called Sir Michael Bishop, at some event or other. Got on with him really well, and he was the chairman of Channel 4. And he called me up and he said, "Would you be interested in talking to me about being chief executive?" And I said, "Would I ever? National treasure and all that." So he said, "Okay, you come along to my suite at the Savoy, and we'll have a chat." And we got on like firm friends. And he said, "Look, can you come in on Monday and speak to the nominations committee, because we need to make an announcement by Tuesday." I went, "Okay."
What was the interview process?
Wow.
Yeah, that was it. I flunked the interview, basically.
Oh,
We've been doing something wrong. We haven't had
we
that
never
sort
get
of
these
tap
calls.
on the shoulder.
We never
Do you
get
want
these
to be
calls.
chief executive?
I don't think anyone does anymore. I think it's a very old-fashioned way of doing
No,
this.
and better.
in retrospect, I mean, you must have been gutted at the time. In retrospect, did something kind of, it was just not meant to be. And how was that moment at the time when you thought, "Oh, I had that opportunity"?
I felt kind of, well, they at that time I was a firm Christian, and so if you kind of scrape me anywhere, you would see that this was my motivation. Was not so much now, actually. Well, not at all really now, if I'm honest. But basically, the interview I had was with Mary McAleese, who was president of Ireland, and one of the great grandees whose name will remain anonymous. And what they were basically on was, how can a guy who purports to be a Christian run Channel 4? Would you commission Queer as Folk? Would you, have, push things that are pushing the boundaries all the time? And, and I tried to argue that, Capital Radio is not a company which is, sets itself on the moral high ground. We do good stuff, but, you could argue that we have people gambling over breakfast every Monday morning, every breakfast day morning. So I tried to make this argument, and Mary McAleese really went at me. She said, "I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that I wouldn't be allowed to ask in my home country about your faith."
Well, yeah.
And I hadn't seen it coming at all.
No.
And actually, okay, I'll tell you who it was. David Plowright. David was baiting me.
Right.
And I think he said, "Well, I mean, why should we worry about stuff like this? I mean, people have got an on-off switch. They've got a remote control. They can turn it off if they don't like it." And I got I was drawn into that argument, which I should have really seen. And it was a very naive interview.
Were they right? I mean, were they right at the time? Like where your head was at the time?
No, they weren't right.
No,
they weren't at all. I mean, I had a much better take on the advertising business than the guy who got the job.
Yeah.
And I knew how to work with creative people, and that was just a.
Had they just made the decision before you even walked in the room, do you think?
I don't know, really. I mean,
it's
a fair question. It's a fair question. You meet lots of people who talk about their faith and, are incapable of thinking in any way around it. So, I mean, it's a fair question, and, it's a shame. I've been turned down as chief executive of Channel 4, chairman of Channel 4, and a non-executive director of Channel 4. So.
I think they can. Well,
they've made their position clear.
More fools them.
That's like
because I mean, it's not as if then it didn't like something like so. What so after that fluffed up interview, what was your next step then?
Well, I was still kind of scalded by that, and I talked to a bloke called Nigel Walmsley, who was my predecessor at Capital Radio. He'd gone on to a reckless career move. He'd left Capital Radio, just not going badly, to go and front the bid for Carlton TV, to try and get Carlton, get the franchise off Thames. whoever saw that coming? Anyway, he did it.
He did.
Yeah.
And so he was then embedded in ITV, and I saw him walking across Leicester Square once, where we'd moved the Capital Radio offices to, and I told him this story, and he went, "Well, number one, this is a bit immodest of me saying this. Number one, Channel 4 had made a terrible mistake,
Yeah.
and number two, anyway, you shouldn't be running Channel 4. You should be running ITV."
Wow.
And I went, "Is there actually a job
Yeah.
doing that?" And he went, "Good question. There needs to be."
Yeah, there should be.
He said, "Just give me time to talk to my
Yeah.
colleagues," and then that begat the chief
bringing
executive
all
of the
the,
network job.
that was bringing all the regions together.
That's
'Cause-
serendipity.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, because this is
Yeah.
it. So I think sometimes the I mean, I talk about the universe, or faith. That wasn't your path, Channel 4. There was another path for you, and it brought you to ITV. Because it so when you said the was that London Weekend Television? Was that what Carlton took over? Or
No, they took it over from Thames.
oh, from Thames.
Yeah.
And then, but we still had weekday television through Carlton, and then London Weekend Television. Is that right?
We did, and then but then there was a great consolidation as we were going
Yeah.
along.
Yeah,
So the
it's
share,
all-
essentially the difficulty with ITV was the shareholders were all people who
Re-
ran television businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All regional, wasn't
and
it?
and they all knew better than me
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
So
'Cause- yeah.
there was politics there,
Yeah.
and in some cases, like from the top, some really very difficult people to deal with.
Well, some big egos, as you say, egos opinion. Because the other thing it reminds me of, if you've ever watched Rivals or read the book, that was all about Meridian
Oh yeah,
TV, and just like that world seems so alien, doesn't it?
yeah.
These days, but it literally was conglomerates, wasn't it? Like basically just these superpowers. So wow. So what?
Yeah.
How old? Sorry, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when? Like that's a big job to go into to try and bring everything together.
To
Yeah,
ITV.
ITV, yeah.
43.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, 42 actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But see, again, I think when you're going, I think it's fine to move jobs into different sectors as long as you've got a place to stand in the new sector. And the place that I had to stand in each of my changes, because there's not a lot of similarity between an ad agency and Capital Radio and ITV, apart from advertising.
Yes.
So the place that I could stand pretty firmly was important to all of those. I mean, slightly less so to Fremantle, or Pearson Television
Yes.
as was
Yeah.
when I went there, but very important to RTL. And so I had my corner in each
Yeah.
of those places. And sometimes it's because you've done a turnaround before and you can be hired to do a turnaround in a place. But you've just got to have a place that you know
Something
is...
that you can own,
Yeah.
and then
your
learn the
corner.
rest, or
Yeah. Yeah.
be curious about
and
the
hire
rest
great
and-
people to do the
and
rest.
hire
That's
great people,
that's one of my
Yeah.
kind of things. I actually started at BBH when I went there because I just thought, look at this creative department. There's John Hegarty and this extraordinary people just cleaning up with the awards. Media Awards started at the same time as I started there, and I thought we just have to clean up with the Media Awards.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're not going to be respected inside this agency. So I just hired for greatness and people who could see around my corners.
Yeah, and greatness it was. Yeah, like you
It
say,
was
when we
good.
so then it was. So from ITV you went to Pearson next. Is that
I
right?
did. Yeah, I did. I had a call from, I was in the running for the Director General job at the BBC. There was Greg Dyke, me, and Tony Hall. Greg Dyke got it, quite rightly. But by that point, as with now, the candidates the shortlist had been revealed.
right.
So all my colleagues at ITV knew I was in the running for the BBC job. I mean, they're our biggest rivals,
Yeah.
and there's so it was extremely awkward that and like almost the moment that Greg had been hired by the BBC, Marjorie Cardino, chief executive of Pearson, called up and said, "Do you want Greg's job?"
I didn't realise he'd come from Pearson. I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I said, I said to her, well, when you looked at the programmes, it were the schlocky programmes. They were like, Family Feud and Baywatch and, The Price is Right. And she said, no. She said, when I go into the city, I say, we're in the ideas business. And they go, okay, well, Pearson Education, I get. FT, Financial Times, I get that. Pearson, Penguin Books, I get that. Pearson Television? Really? Baywatch? Ideas business? She said, I want the slate of programmes that fits with that lot. I thought, now that is...
That's a
that's
a good challenge,
great
isn't it?
call.
Yeah.
I mean, so I jacked it in
Yeah.
and went to Pearson to run that, and boy, was that hard.
Yeah.
That
And
was-
so was it, because obviously there's ITV studios now within ITV. At the time, was there a production? Was it quite, no, there's no production
Well,
at all.
there was Carlton Productions, Granada
Yes,
Productions,
yeah.
and, you know, all the way across the individual. And
Yeah.
that was the complexity. So around my board table, the people who gave me my job were people who were also responsible for their production slate. And guess what? They wanted the network to buy their shows.
Yeah, of course.
And they were competing with each other to sell shows to the network, which David Liddman, as the genius program director,
Yeah.
were commissioning. So, you know, the politics of the thing were horrendous.
Don't you think that would make a great TV show?
Yeah.
They should do.
I would
They should,
imagine.
would you go back? Would you do a little cameo as yourself?
Yeah.
Go back on the show.
No, who would I have play me?
Yeah, who would you have play
I
you?
don't know.
Oh, somebody dashingly
Dashingly handsome.
handsome.
No, actually, probably some real ugly. So people would go, "Oh, he's better looking than that guy."
But wow, I mean, my God, if walls could have ears or whatever, or eyes, whatever. Wow, I mean, you must have come through. What was your big? I mean, this is not really off script. What's the biggest ding dong that ever happened around that table?
The biggest ding dong was unquestionably the buying the Champions League,
Right.
because it was £250 million in 1999. I mean, it was
Bloody
a
hell.
lot.
Oh
of
God,
money.
that was, and also that's just after United when United won the Champions League
Yes.
in Barcelona. Was that 98?
That was 99, I think.
99.
Oh, 90, so that's when you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, then an English team within
Right.
the final.
I
So
know, not bad.
that's not bad. So
Not
that
bad.
so was that a ding dong and then a good like a
It was a ding dong because, rightly or wrongly, I think rightly, we felt that if we tried to bring all of the shareholders, all of the, you know, everyone from Border Television up to Granada, try and bring them all on side, there would be so much squabbling, and this needed to be a really sharp negotiation with these very fine tooled guys selling this stuff, lawyers everywhere, and so we didn't actually tell them that that's how far we'd got, and that was what the price was. And I remember telling Nigel Walmsley at the Brits, I think.
that's a good place to tell.
Yeah, you bought what?
Yeah.
25 million, great deal.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, bargain.
He was furious.
Oh, wow.
Understandably furious, but it was a great buy. I mean,
Well,
it was
yeah.
a great buy. And, you know, at that time, you know, all of the sales guys were saying, look, we haven't got any men ratings. We've got to have something. So we bought Formula One and we bought Champions League. That was a ding dong.
And obviously, yeah, and ever since ITV's had the Champions League, hasn't it? it?
No, I don't think they've got it now, have they?
Or is it not it now?
No, it's all over the place.
Oh,
now.
is
so,
it?
yeah, it's
All right,
got
and not
something.
Formula One either. But
No,
anyway,
Sky.
but you know, you set that. Gosh, that's a big deal.
I think the biggest commission probably made there was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
Because when I went there, there was an assumption that we were losing ratings at 6% a year, but you know, what could you do? Because you had satellite taking off, people
Yeah.
were buying cable and so on. So 6% is the norm. That's flat territory. But it's not. You know, BBC One was like relatively stable throughout this time. This is us doing this. So I used my honeymoon period, very important thing to do,
Right.
first time CEO of
Yeah.
a place, to publish our audience targets. That was a bit of a ding dong too. I mean, if it hadn't been the honeymoon period, then I might have been out, because it was not what ITV did. So I published our peak time audience targets, which were 38% in 98, 39% in 99, 40% in 2000. And it galvanized the place.
Yeah.
Number one, we were able to hire really good people, where previously I don't think the best people wanted to come to us
'Cause
Yeah.
it was
to
a
manage
growth,
decline.
growth
Yeah.
story rather than
It was a
sort of
renaissance
managing
story.
decline.
They wanted to be part of the Renaissance.
Yeah.
You know, this is what
Yeah.
they want. You know, I was there at ITV during this period, and then you would actually hear people saying, "Well, we're not going to hit 39% if we don't take some risks."
Yeah.
And that was how the program that was being toted around everywhere, called Cash Mountain, turned into Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and came to ITV. And I thought I was either the biggest idiot or the bravest man in broadcasting to
Yeah.
take on that show, because I thought we could lose £1 million a night on this show,
Yeah.
which actually you couldn't. And
No.
the guy Paul Smith, who was basically selling the thing, proved it to David Letterman by having him use his own money to do the quiz.
Oh, really?
And convinced him that actually comes a point where if you've got £16,000 and you don't really know the answer to that question, you'll take the £16,000.
Yeah, exactly. And then was it? And then obviously then it was commissioned across the entire globe, wasn't it? So would ITV have got? Did you get the knockback from then it going across the globe?
No, we didn't. No,
just the production house.
Yeah, I mean, had you had ITV Studios producing it, then you would have done, which is quite rightly they did that. But no, from our point of view, we just got the ratings, which is frankly all we wanted.
It was Chris Tarrant, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So Chris Tarrant, who followed me from Cadwell Radio, of course.
Of course,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first thing he said to me was, "Not you again."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So ITV, Pearson, and then what happened next?
Pearson got sold. Pearson Television got sold. So Marjorie solved her problem of having this kind of ill-fitting child in her family by selling it to somebody else. So they stayed in. They had 22% of the new company, but I then had 2 jobs. And the stupid way that you get in mergers, that things happen that have no merit. They'd done this structure whereby the content business reported to the COO. So I was in charge of the content business because we were making the shows.
Yeah.
But the head of strategy reported to the CEO. And I kind of insisted on reporting to the CEO because, our business was television broadcasting, radio broadcasting, new media, as we then called it, and production. And I was the only person that had done all 4 of those things. And so, actually looking me down here in the organogram makes no sense. And Marjorie was vicious on that point. She's a fantastic negotiator. And so we came up with this. The only way you could solve this without completely rearranging their organogram was to keep me running content to the COO and then run strategy to the CEO. Nonsense. 2 massive jobs. One based in Luxembourg, one based in London. Nightmare. I had to be in Luxembourg by 10 a.m. their time every Monday morning. It just spoils the weekend.
Yeah, the impact.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And very political, and
So where did you go after that then? What happened then?
Out.
Yeah.
I can remember sitting on an aeroplane going into Luxembourg on the Monday morning, as I always was, looking out the window thinking, just a minute, I hate this. Yeah. And I'm waking up in the morning, 5 o'clock most mornings, like feeling ill, not wanting to go to work, and being paid a ton of money to do something I hate. And I thought, actually, when it comes to it, I don't care whether this company succeeds or fails.
Then you think this is the moment for me. I can't stay here.
So I'm nothing if not impetuous, really. So I just phoned Sheila on the way to the office, in the car on the way to the office from the airport, and said, "Sheila, I'm going to leave this company." And she said, "I can't tell you how pleased I am." And I said, "Well, yeah, but if I left when we did the deal, I'd have got paid off.
Yeah.
If I leave now, I'm just leaving." And she said, "Look, when I married you, you were earning £2,200 a year. If you finish up earning 5, I've had a result." So armed with that level of support, I resigned.
But also, I think partners, know more than most that when you're unhappy, it doesn't matter what money's coming through the door. When you're unhappy at work, it erodes everything, doesn't it? Your home life, your friendship. So it's very rare to see people who, I think, can take the money over the unhappiness. I think at some point, the unhappiness wins.
Convincing period, I mean, if you see pictures of me at that time, I look like crap. Sort of bags. I look sort of basically unhappy.
Yeah, it's not worth it, is it?
And I've still got the bags, but but the things. So then, I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, I'm going to write a novel.
Oh yes.
So that was my sort of
novelist,
bounce spot.
No, we should have said it. And what
that would be a little over the top.
You should have brought it in with you. And what was it? So what was your novel about?
Well, guess what? It was a whodunit based in a television company.
Yeah, that's the one they should make into a film. That's the one they should make into a film, shouldn't they? Well, we will put that. And what's it called?
The Club.
The Club. We will put that in the podcast notes, won't we, Marco?
Okay. Well, it's kind of slightly hard to buy now because it didn't do that well, and so you could buy it at one point on eBay for 2p, and with postage to package £5. And actually, I mentioned this when I do this sort of regular talk to young people in the business and stuff like that about success,
Yeah.
and defining success. And so I show them the screenshot of that page where my novel is 2p, and I say, this is not a successful novel, okay, but for me, this is success. But then I did this just earlier this year, and I thought, well, I should just check whether the novel is still 2p. And the cheapest one was available was £300, and because it was a signed copy. How fascinating! So I sort of looked up and saw that I know exactly whose it was, because I'd written their name in it and signed it. And it was one of my best friends was selling you
for 300 quid.
Bloody book
Yeah.
for 300 quid.
That's brilliant. It's great that you mentioned, because I did have a question around success.
Yes.
And I think you've had a load of big jobs, and when you think about success when you were starting out, like what were you looking for then, and what did success look like for you then, and I guess now looking back, how would you redefine that in any way, or how would you think about it?
I think success at that stage was a very short-term concept. It was just getting a job. I was being kicked out of my home.
Yes.
I needed a job, I needed an income, and I didn't really kind of mind what it was. And in my first interview, the guy, Ray Morgan, who hired me, said, "Do you know what the media department does?" And I sort of, I think it does. It do this? I mean, you would never get a job now if you hadn't, all their clients and all this kind of thing. But it was, like we said, there's different times. So it was a very short term thing, and I actually don't think that I had any clue where that might take me. It was simply, I just needed to be on a bus, and it didn't really matter where it was going. And so there was no vision. There was an ambition after a while. So when we had our first son, I really started buckling down and arriving on time and taking it more seriously. And at that point, my career started to improve. But at the outset, there was no sort of volition about it. I didn't do it for any other reason.
I mean, I guess the question is, for someone who is starting, like when you look back on that, do you think there's value in having that kind of sort of ambition to longer term, I guess?
I do think there's value. I mean, I'm mentoring a young man at the moment who is in exactly the same. I mean, I empathise with him so much. It's just how I was. He didn't know what he wanted to do. Therefore, going for any particular job is a sort of rather academic process. There's no kind of passion in it.
Yeah.
You really want this job, and so I mean, that's the kid that I was. I mean, I don't think I think as I was well into my 20s, maybe towards my late 20s, before it dawned on me that I could make a decision about something that was my point of view, rather than weighing up what other people would think about my decisions and then choosing that path. And I'm afraid to say it's shocking, but that's how I made my mind up.
Well, I think that's incredibly important, because that is, I mean, I always say to people that there's no one else on this planet that is thinking about you more than you are.
Yeah.
But you do get into that. What will people think? What if I take that? Will that look like I'm going sideways? And it's hard not to do that.
Yeah.
But if you can avoid it, I think it's
quite
really
a realization when you thought, actually, the thing that most appeals to me now is the way that I should go. So I know I've got this the way I make the big decisions still is a bit like that in a way, in that I put myself in the, so am I going to go and take this job, or am I going to stay where I am? I've put myself in the frame of mind that I've decided to take that job, and I live with that for a day or two and just see how I feel about it. And then I come back and say, I've decided to turn down that job, and I'm going to live with this job for a while. And I sort of mimic that same process of, it's a version of the line down the middle of the paper and the pros and cons. But I was cheap with that.
Well, you just just basically reverse fit whatever your gut feel is. You reverse fit the data, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm going to put more on this side because I really just want some evidence to back up why I'm going to do this. But really, we're doing it. We're just trying to.
I mean, I always think I always found if I felt like I was kind of selling a job to people, by which time it's too late because I'm in it. But I always felt like if I'm having to sell.
Yeah.
I'm telling them, but in a way I'm selling myself.
Yeah.
I know I've made the wrong decision because I'm like, I know
You're fooling yourself.
I feel
You're
like
fooling yourself.
I'm
aren't
working hard to give
Yeah.
reasons why I've taken
Yeah.
this job or I like this job. And
Yeah.
I was, when I'm doing that, when I've done that, and I can think of one particular, I'm like, oh, fuck this up. I know I shouldn't have done this job.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is not for
But
me.
it's too late, you know, then
Yeah.
you deal with the next
And
thing.
then you've got to stick with it. And I'm just like listening to your career, obviously being incredibly successful, and also hearing, because we hear it a lot. Well, Rory Sutherland says that a career is really a series of events that you then retrofit into. That was my career.
Yeah.
But is it, what made you, I suppose for people listening in, how do you get on? What was it got your opportunities? Was it your network? Was it just standing out, like zigging whilst others zagged up? What made you stand out to get those phone calls? Is it just doing a good job and working with people and knowing people? How would you advise people to get on these days?
I think it was allowing oneself to be public.
Yeah.
And some people say, and maybe this is retrofitting to their personality. Personally, I prefer to just kind of stay under the wire, get the job done, and so on. I'd never really done that. I've
Yeah.
kind of rather slightly courted publicity,
Yes.
and which is kind of dangerous because you get to like it too much. But certainly in my advertising career, I felt it really helped me hire great people if I had
They knew you.
some level of
Yeah.
notoriety
Agree,
Yeah.
about me.
So you're a
better off
talent
away.
magnet. Like people would want to be part of your success. And
Yeah, I suppose I never expressed it in that way. It just felt like that was
Yes.
a good place to be.
Yeah.
Because so an industry leader in there, and that then happened in radio as well, and then happened in
Yeah.
television.
you've got to put your head above you've got to put yourself out there, haven't you? You've got to put your head above the parapet, and I
Yes.
suppose be
Pros and cons. isn't
yeah,
it?
like go, okay, well I'm going to go out with this public story, but you've got to know that you could also get the adverse effect of that
Yeah.
as well. So you've got to, you get out what you put in, don't you? And sometimes you've got to take some
Yeah.
risks.
You do, and I mean, with the old Myers-Briggs test, for the whole of the time I was a CEO, I came up as an extrovert
Yeah.
in that, and the moment I stopped doing it, I'm back to being an I. I'm an
Yeah.
introvert.
Yeah.
I don't, on that question of in that psychological an assessment, it says if you walk into a party, do you go and find people you know, or do you go and make new friends? I am off the scale. Find people I know, and
Yeah.
if I don't find people I know, I leave.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
unself-confident I am. But actually, something comes with the role, and so it sounds odd that as somebody who's basically introverted, who feels much more comfortable being under the wire, that you would actually go out and court publicity.
Yeah, but that was
you
the
just-
persona.
just
But
do. It's the persona,
and
yeah.
it's the persona, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
I think actually there's so many people that you do meet that you think they're extrovert. I think people probably think I am, but I have to force myself to do those things. I mean, I hate the word networking.
So do I.
I hate the word.
For anyone
Networking
for anyone
lunch.
for anyone not watching, Marco has a hugely cynical face as he hears,
I am an extrovert.
as he
I'm an
hears these
introvert.
words come out of Rachel's
No, it's
mouth.
no, but you have to who feels comfortable walking into a room but sometimes you just force
Well,
yourself.
that's
and then,
the extreme version.
and then
I
when
think
you've
like no
done
one
it-
wants to walk up to
no,
strangers.
they
do
don't.
They,
They
really?
don't. They don't.
I mean,
But I think, like you say, it's part. It came as part of the role, didn't it? And for you to be a leader, you had to portray
Yeah.
in a certain way.
but
Yeah.
also that putting the sort of whatever you want to call it, putting yourself out there, visibility and so on. I mean, part comes with a job anyway. Some of those
Yeah.
bigger jobs certainly, but I guess it's another way of being extrovert, isn't it? It's another way of walking into a room and walking up to people. It's just in your control because you're becoming very visible. You're making yourself, opening yourself up to people without having to do the physical. Walking. I
Yeah.
think you can do a lot of press as a introvert, but it builds your.
Yeah.
If the world depended on us walking into rooms and walking up to people and saying hello for our networking, I don't think many people would
No.
have reputations. I think the press, but it does become addictive.
Yeah.
I've always been a big LinkedIner and Twitter in the day and whatever,
Mm.
and it's great. You get loads of people who walk up to you and say, "I've followed you for ages," or
Yeah.
or you even sort of feel like you know each other. But you then get the people who go, "Don't you have a day job?" And whatever
Yeah, a
other
bit of
negative stuff
backlash.
they want to come
Yeah.
up with. But
Yeah.
but I think it is. I do tell students, have an opinion.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
an opinion is
Yeah.
important.
Put yourself out there. When you walked into those rooms, because we're called mentor, Would you say your mentors through your career have been close friends or more official? Because I feel what we find on this program is that actually mentorship can be quite unofficial and just bosses or people you work with. Who have been your mentors through your career?
I would say I've been a sort of magpie for ideas. So I mean, there's some people who stand out, like Nigel Bogle, who are hugely influential on me, and there are some other names like that. By and large, I'm quite attracted by contrarian figures because I am conflict averse. You know, I'm expert at seeing conflict coming and plotting a course around it. And you know, and I, as I mentioned earlier, I like building relationships and working with the relationships that have been built mutually. But there's something about contrarian people that I find really rather magnetic. And so I can think of a number of people whose style, David Mansfield, who I worked with for side by side at Capital Radio. I mean, his style is so aggressive by comparison with mine, and I would find myself thinking, I wish I'd just said that. You know, I mean, had the balls to, you know.
Yeah.
So I pick up tips along the way, and then sometimes I think, oh, that's a really quite interesting approach. I'm going to try that on for a bit.
Yeah.
So like as a new set of clothes, see if it fits, and if it's not, just discard it and go. But there are various things that I see myself doing now, or ways of talking or ways of presenting that I know I can trace back to one of those thinking, that's better than me. I'm going to try that on. So I think I'm fascinated by business. I love this business that we're in, and you know, I compulsively watch business television about, you know, the flops and things that have gone wrong, and read in the press about, you know, massive Brewdog goes down, and you know the Fire Island, and you know all of these. There's something about collecting information about terrible disasters. You kind of feel somehow immunises you against doing something like that. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a sort of really formal mentor, but I can think of like tons of sort of touch points which have just, you know,
Shaped
redirected
you.
me.
Yeah.
And you sound like you experiment a bit. You've mentioned a couple of times where you sort of try things on, and I think that I really quite like that, because it's sort of, you're not committed to everything. You're just going to see how it feels.
I like that.
Experiment a little bit, and if it works, you stick with it.
Yeah, I like that. You know, when people say, you know, are you going to regret doing it, or are you going to regret not doing it? You know, I'm always going to regret not doing it.
Yeah.
So I do these ridiculous things like, you know, go to the South Pole and so on, which is one of the most horrible things I've ever done. But because I couldn't bear not having done it. You know. And
we've had that before.
Because you had the opportunity,
Well, you regret decisions you don't make versus the ones you do. That's it. You never, like, you know, better to have loved and lost than never have loved at all. It's a bit of like, if you don't do it, you won't know, and then you'd forever. We didn't even get the South Pole into the bio, did we? I mean, sorry about that.
Or the North Pole.
Or the North Pole. Both.
Yeah.
Really?
Because we had Dags on.
Dags. You didn't do it with Dags, did you?
Dags,
you did it with what?
South
Pole
with
Dags.
Yeah.
Right.
South Pole with Dags, North Pole without Dags.
Did you do it with all the original stitching and everything? Was that from the original expedition? No, that's one of the ones that...
Original stitching?
Well, as in all the original kits.
He did one trip where all the kit was original.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
To the original.
So he did that for the North Pole.
Right.
Which is mad.
Yeah. Because that's literally... You've
got
old kits going to the North Pole.
Yes, crazy.
Wow.
But, yeah, so I did the North Pole trip with a different bunch of people than the South Pole.
Oh, my God, we didn't get that in. And tell us about your book.
This book?
Yeah.
Well,
not your novel. We've had your novel. No. There's 2p on eBay.
This book is called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Can you see it?
Right, yeah.
It's by Ben Horowitz. Now, I don't like business books at all. I think they tend to be written by people who are sort of either trying to make sense of their career or researchers who've never actually done it.
Yeah.
This guy is part of Andreessen Horowitz, which is like one of the big venture capital funders in Silicon Valley, and he himself has run a bunch of businesses. And this book, there's no bullshit in it. I mean, the chapters are all There are lots of little short chapters, and they're all like genuine like business issues that you don't find in other kinds of text. You know, like demoting a loyal friend. You know, is it okay?
Demote you, Marco.
Yeah. Is it okay to hire
Don't
people
lend
from
it
your
to-
friend's company?
All right, God, these are
that
some
kind of-
interesting
When
topics.
smart people are bad employees. The fine line
That's
between
me.
fear and courage. That's a great chapter,
Oh,
because
wow.
he says you know, basically fear and courage both feel the same. They both feel the same to you. The difference between them is not the one inevitably leads in one direction and this leads in the other direction. The difference between them is what you do about them. So if you're fearful, then you'll shy away. If you're
Yeah.
courageous, then you'll push on. But those feelings at that moment, they're identical.
Well, the adrenaline feels the same, but actually
and-
how you do it. Yeah.
What am I going to do, and what if I get it wrong? There's, those are the same. It's such a good
I might
book.
do if it's on Audible. I'm very bad at reading.
Yeah, it's on Audible.
I'm going to get it on
And-
I
Audible.
think
he-
you could
he
do
reads
with
it
some new
himself.
one-liners.
I do
think
need some.
you-
I keep
yeah, think you
repeating
need
them.
to
Rinse and
refresh.
repeat.
This is to refresh.
This is the great refresher for
Right, I'm
one-liners.
going to have some refreshers, and I'm going to bore you senseless, Marco.
Here's another example. So he goes the use of profanity at work. He said basically, if you say, "Can you please just get this job done?" It is nowhere near as impactful as if you say, "If you could please just get this fucking job
Yeah,
done."
yeah.
And he says, so I am.
Oh, well, we like him.
Selective
Unapologetic
swearing. Yeah,
about my use of
exactly.
bad language.
Yeah, we
to
like
get
him
stuff
then.
Well,
done.
you have sworn, so we've already started. So, and also because we are going to be running out of time.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Biggest fuck up.
The biggest fuck up was done for the best of intentions. Capital Radio. So we were regulated to such a point where we couldn't increase our size of the pot in radio. We couldn't buy any more radio stations, and so we had our 15% of the points in the system. And we'd moved the business to Leicester Square from the Euston Tower where it used to be, and we didn't buy the ground floor because the ground floor was retail and therefore much more expensive than the office space above. And but that was available. And one of the things about being in the radio business, you don't really ever come into contact with your customers, your listeners, all that much. So we do lots of outside broadcasts and best disco in town and all those kinds of things. But these are kind of real small things. And we thought, why don't we create a Capital Radio Cafe, which we did on the ground floor. It's like the Hard Rock Cafe and all of those things that were going on at that time. It was, and whereas the problem with cafes is the marketing costs and the refurbishment costs are very high. We had a marketing thing, we'd say, hey, Tori Amos is in the Capital Radio Cafe tonight, come along, We had our own marketing little system there. So we got that, we built it. I was so proud of it. I loved it. And then we thought, well, hang on, we've got radio stations like in other parts of the country. Why don't we create one there as well? And then we thought, biggest fuck up coming up. Why don't we buy a restaurant business? So we bring in a whole lot of expertise because we're radio people, we're media people. We don't know how to run restaurants. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? But no, it's not. So why don't we buy a business where which has a whole load of other restaurants?
Yeah.
Shocking. The shareholders hated it.
So what did that become? What was that then?
We bought a company called My Kind of Town,
Yeah.
which had a bunch of other restaurants, and we started converting them. Beach Blanket Babylon,
I
remember that
remember
one?
Beach
Yeah.
Blanket
of
Babylon.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was one of theirs.
Is that Notting Hill or
which
something?
became one of ours.
Oh wow.
And at that point, we had, in over 4 to 5 years, we'd increased the value of Capital Radio by 5 times, which is pretty good going.
Yeah.
So that's when I tell the story of Capital Radio. I said over 5 to 6 years, we increased the value by 4 times, because the value fell by a dramatic
God,
amount when we acquired the restaurants. And finally, one of the shareholders told me, it's because you're a very big cash creating business. Restaurants are very big cash consuming businesses, and we want the cash out in the dividends to us. And you've basically just taken it to refurbish all your restaurants.
So who did you sell it? So when we sold it,
Well, I
off,
left.
Right.
David Mansfield, my successor, said to me, "You do know I'm going to blame you for the restaurant," despite the fact that it was something we created together.
Agreed, yeah.
But yes, that's what you get to do as the new CEO. You need to blame the old CEO for everything.
Well, that's it. We've actually we had a fuck up from Alessandro Bellini, which was
that made the front.
made the BBC,
Yeah.
and yours is pretty meaty as well. They've definitely got bigger as the
Yeah, they
series
have.
has
I don't
gone
know
on
who's going
from
to
sort
be
of
the
messing
next
up
one.
a pitch or something that we used to
Yeah.
have. I
Yeah.
think you mentioned it for a second with Sheila and how you were feeling at the time about that previous job. When you look over the whole of your career, what do you think like work has given to you, and what's it taken away from you? And is there anything you would have changed? Any levers you'd have pulled to change that?
That's a really good question.
Balance.
That's a really good question. I mean, it's given me purpose and reason to get up in the morning, sometimes much earlier than I would have liked, and the satisfaction of achievement, just huge amounts of learning, and of course, in this industry, over the last since I first started 50 years ago, it's the changes are just one after the other. I mean, I love change. I create change if there's no change happening. So that what is taken away, I really overlent on my relationship with my wife and my family to build my career, and we've done that sort of jointly though. She's very wise, my wife, and we started giving each other an annual review, which kind of sounds horrendous, but actually is really
Healthy.
really good.
It's
And
healthy,
that's for me my biggest work hack. That we once a year we have a sort of formal. So it used to be on this rock in Cornwall. We used to go on our holidays. We used to sit down on the rock and discuss how the last year had gone, what was coming out that was new, and so on. Now, you don't save up all your beefs and bitches until that moment, but, where, for example, one of the kids has got exams this year, or one of them's leaving school this year, or going to university for the first time, or having trouble getting a job. But, these things are sort of things that is worthwhile sitting down and discussing. So we do those, we plan our giving for the year. So we have a global issue, a national issue, and a local issue, which kind of centerpiece of our giving, and they become a sort of centerpiece. And so when I went to Capital, Sheila said, "Look, I'm going to say to you, like, for 6 months, you just go and do it. Whatever you need to do, go and do it." And then we got to the end of 6 months, and she said, "I think you need another 6 months." So it wasn't me then saying, "Look, I'm really sorry, I can't get home any earlier," and so on. So I've missed like countless sports days and countless parents' evenings and so on to do all of this, and I regret that. I do regret that. But I don't, looking back at the me who was making those decisions, I don't think he could have made a better decision at the time.
No, and I think that's
the toughest thing,
it is, and I think it's that self-awareness now. I think I'm just like, hey, going, it's that. I think that is wonderful advice to anyone in any partnership. That annual review is just a very healthy way, because you are a partnership, and you can't do one thing without that. I was on a panel this morning, and I felt very guilty that I'd outsourced my childcare from my youngest at 6 months. And that was the way you got on. You just threw yourself. I mean, we were at Zenith at the time, and it was just all hours. Yeah. And when anybody'd say, how did you manage to do what you did? And I'd say, really good childcare. We had au pairs. We had an au pair in bloody lockdown. I think, my God, that's a bit over the top. And so I think we all have regrets. But you know what? Tell you that's why it's healthy, like in your relationships, that actually nobody's really scarred from it. I think it's more what we miss out on versus what they've missed out on, but that honesty in that partnership.
They know they're loved, and they definitely do appreciate what you're doing, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, and when your partner is genuine a partner in that, rather than the victim of your decisions, then they don't pass on things which the kids will
they'll pick up on it.
Pick up on all kinds of things. They pass on a very positive picture, because the kids now, kids now are quite old, but there's no resentment of me.
Well, because it's your life.
Has just gone off saying my heart rate's gone up at the thought of an annual review with my wife.
Oh, well, no, I'll give you an annual. I will give you an annual review, Margaret. But no, I think that's the perfect thing to end, because actually in all our careers and our life, you can't do it without the people around you, and it is about that partnership. So thank you so much, Richard. You've been an absolute delight.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. We are going to be out of time. Can
I ask? Can I say one more thing that I prepared?
Yes, please.
So the best advice I've ever been given was given to me by a coach, a friend of mine who was a coach, and he said, most people don't know themselves. So they kind of go through life without having really figured out what it is that they want and so on. So here's a thing for you. Figure out 3 words that you would like people to be saying about you when you're not in the room. And they can be anything, and be honest. So, you know...
Do you want me to say now? No. Oh, you'd say
you
this?
can do.
Oh, no,
You can.
sorry,
No, that's too hard.
No.
It probably is quite hard,
Yeah.
but actually, so you figure out your 3 words, and it could be, you know, I want people to think I'm creative, or I'm likable, or I'm successful, or reliable, you know, any of those things. So figure out the 3, and then second part of it is, what have you got to do to deserve them, and what have you got to change to deserve them? I thought that was just such
genius.
Great advice.
And do you know what that's genius? Sorry, Marco, but again, on this panel, is which we're called mentor, but the difference between mentor and sponsors, you want people to be talking about you when you're not in the room, and it's those sponsors that will get you potentially your next role. So if you figure out what you want people to be saying about you when you're not in the room, that is genius.
It also closes the gap, doesn't it? The reality gap between what you want and what you have to do to get there. Because we can all sit there and go, well, I want people to say I'm this, that, and the other. Yeah. But if you don't put any further thought into how you actually make that happen,
you're going to do that,
then you have that.
I love that.
Gap,
yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, really good.
Well,
that's in. So that's all we've got time for, folks, unfortunately. Another goodie. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, please do subscribe to Mentor. Do all those things, like it, share it with someone that's navigating their own leadership journey. And please do drop us a line on our socials too.
And of course, we do have a day job. If you would like wisdom in your business, then please do come to TheZoo.London for executive search and consultancy.
Mentor is a Viral Tribe entertainment production, so please do join us next time for more Pearls of Wisdom from Mentor.